Okay, just quiet while we go on. Okay, and we are live.
Brilliant. Hello. Well, it's so wonderful to see you guys. I mean, oh look, and here we've got Joe coming in. Is that right? Brilliant, fantastic. Hello. So what we're going to do is fantastic. We're back. It's the new year, although I can't believe it's February already. And I've been saying, is it 10 months till next Christmas? I think seems a little bit crazy. But let's go round the table. You can see I'm in Parliament. But John, if you just like to say who you are, that's fantastic, please.
John Forkin, Managing Director of Marketing Derby with the England Investment Agency for the City of Derby and the County of Derbyshire.
Fantastic. And Matt?
Hello again, Amanda. Councillor Matthew Holmes, Mickleover Ward, Derby City Council, and regular on your wonderful Q&As.
Well, it's lovely to have you here, and I can see that Joe keeps flashing in and out at the moment. So I think we'll just start chatting. Max, do we have a problem with Joe?
I'm not sure. I think I met him when it comes.
Don't worry, just keep trying. Right. Max, if you can mute yourself and then we can carry on, that's great. Thank you. Now then, I suppose what we need to have a think about is, shall we have a little conversation about Derby County Football Club?
A little one.
a little conversation. I went on the fantastic march the other day, and it was so the spirit there. Hi Joe, the spirit was amazing.
I'm so sorry I'm late.
don't worry, we're live streaming and these things happen when we live stream, so not a problem. Do you want to quickly say who you are, Joe, before we get going? That's good.
Of course, yeah. So sorry, my name's Joe Chapman, Head of Public Affairs at Stansted and East Midlands Airports, which are part of the Manchester Airports Group. And again, sorry for the delay. I was stuck in a terrible traffic jam on the M25, so I can only apologise.
No problem at all. So we just started a conversation. I don't know how readily you follow Derby County, but Derby County Football Club. But maybe Matt, from an outsider's point of view, because John and I have been on very regular meetings. How are you feeling? What is your sort of take on all of this?
I think I speak for probably most fans that there's a frustration and a stress about not knowing what's happening and worrying about developments, hearing rumours and reports in the press which may or may not be true, and all of that kind of stuff. And it is just really worrying. It was good to see the extension granted. Well, it was good and bad to see the extension granted. First, that it gave the club more time, the administrators more time, but it also gave the sense that there was a lot to sort out. And I think there's just a massive amount of frustration, just urging something to actually happen, something significant to happen, a new owner's come in so we can just start again, really. And we all just hope that this is going to have a positive outcome for Derby, because obviously nobody wants to see the club liquidated, and that would be the worst of all possible outcomes. So just worry and wanting to hear, and we understand that this thing's going on behind the scenes that can't be spoken about publicly. We know what that situation is, but it's just frustration.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's so we've been quite embroiled, haven't we, John, in really trying to sort this out. And I think it's useful for us to hear, Matt, your point of view from an outsider's point of view, what it's like, what it feels like. And when I was on the march, there is the passion, and Joe, I don't know whether you have this in I don't know whether you're a football fan, but it's like it's cutting to the heart of Derby. It's cutting to it just threads through us, Derby County Football Club. And Joe, what have you, I don't know whether you've sort of come across this kind of emotion before. You do.
Yeah, so I mean, I have to confess, I'm afraid I'm not a Derby County supporter.
Go on.
But I am a big football supporter, and the team I support went into administration, Crystal Palace Football Club, a number of years ago, and it's yeah, it galvanised the local population like you wouldn't believe, really, because it's such an emotive issue and everyone identifies with their football club. So I can relate to that.
No, it's difficult times. John, I wonder if before we go on to the next question, whether you could just give us an overview of where we are now and really how optimistic you're feeling as well.
Well, in many sense, the facts are reasonably straightforward. Derby County was found guilty of gaming the system over a 3-year period. So we fell foul of the financial fair play. And I think hands up, we know that happened. So the punishment for that has been a 2-year ban on sales, on transfer embargo, which for any team, particularly a football team, really makes it difficult, not having the churn of new blood, not being able to sell assets and the like. And then secondly, a 21-point reduction, which for most people would mean the end of that particular division that you're in. And that was the punishment. And Derby County's put its hands up and taken the punishment. Then we fell into administration. And I think people are getting confused. The administration was not part of the punishment, consequence of the punishment. And so the club went into administration, which they would sit now. And that's why there's a danger to its existence. We can't find a buyer to take ourselves out of administration. There is no such thing as Derby County. I guess it's where the source of the angst, which Matthew mentioned, lies. The club is one of the original football clubs, one of the original 12. This year, we will be 138 years old. It's an iconic club. It's won the English Championship a number of times. It's won the FA Cup. It's played in the sort of, as far as European Cup semi-final. It's one of the best supported clubs, not just in the EFL, but in England. I think we will be 10th if we're in the Premier League in terms of our average attendances. We had 32,000 in the stadium last weekend, for example. Again tomorrow night. And as you rightly say, it cuts right through the city. One of the things that struck me about the demonstration last week is the banners. There was 10,000 people on that demonstration. Was a lot of the banners say something like "One club, one city," and I think for some people, there's a blur between the football club, which obviously attracts football fans, but actually in Derby, and there are 2 other 3 cities like this in the country, and Derby is definitely one of them, where it goes way beyond the football. And you can stop anybody in the street in the city of Derby and they'll know stuff about Derby County, even if they've never been to a football match or don't care about the football match. So that, I guess, is what we're fighting. And then probably the rest of it, without boring people, it's kind of like, I feel like we're in the middle of a John le Carré novel or a Franz Kafka novel. We seem to be going round in circles because the problem is, in order to get a bidder, and we have 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 consortiums who are interested in buying the club, so it is an attractive proposition, but none of them seem to be able to move forward until this issue of these claims from Middlesbrough and Wickham are sorted, whatever the word sorted means. And that's kind of the dead end win at the moment, is trying to unblock these particular claims, which, unless you ask me, Amanda, I don't intend to go into, but they are claims. They're not debts, they're not creditors. It's just a football club has written to another football club to claim £50 million because they feel wronged on something, and it's untested. So we've got this thing where someone's claimed something off us. It's not tested in the courts. It seems difficult to test in the courts, but we have to pretend it has been tested. And so that ambiguity about, are we buying Derby County or are we buying Derby County plus a potential £50 million debt, that's putting the bidders off. And until we unblock that, that's obviously what we're involved in behind the scenes. We can't do that. The last thing I'd say, Amanda, is this. When we started as a Team Derby approach, I think we thought we were going to stand on the sidelines and encourage noise and raise the profile, and it's been brilliantly raised in Parliament. There was a fantastic debate in Parliament a couple of Tuesdays ago with MPs from all over the country. House of Lords had it last week. Demonstration on the streets, I've mentioned, 60,000 people signing a petition. Every single national newspaper has covered it quite extensively. Every programme, whether it's the Good Morning Britain right through, has covered it extensively as well. So we thought we were kind of raising the profile. But we found ourselves actually in the midst of it all, which is not where we expected to be, because it's not our job, trying to broker, trying to understand different positions, and then trying to see if we can't throw some light that gets ourselves out of this, because Derby County cannot be allowed to fall. That for me is the start and finish of it. Derby and Derbyshire without Derby County is unthinkable.
Couldn't agree more, John, and that is why we have had so many meetings. That is why we have been putting so much pressure on. And just to say that this has been not just obviously I'm a member of Parliament, but it's not just been a political endeavour. It's been a cross-party, but also it's been leaders of within Derby really just fighting for the spirit that keeps us together, which of course is Derby County Football Club. And we know, I mean, we're keeping that pressure up. So yes, John, let's hope we get to a resolution really soon, because it would be great. It would be really great. And thank you, John, for all you do, and thank you to all the other Team Derby if they are listening, because it's been a really collective effort. I'm going to move on, and what I'm thinking, John, is maybe we do an update actually on Derby County next week or something. Maybe have a mini Zoom or something that might be helpful. But I'd just like to go on to Freeports, and I'm not sure whether anybody listening, I'm sure that have heard of Freeports, but Joe, I don't know whether you could fill us in terms of what a Freeport is and why it's so significant to the East Midlands.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So a Freeport essentially is a special area where tax incentives and customs incentives apply to encourage private sector companies to invest into that area. So to give you a very general example, let's say Toyota, for example, wanted to import raw materials into the UK. They then finished that material, added value to it within this Freeport zone. They can then export it again, and they would escape paying tariffs on that product when they're exporting it abroad, which is obviously a huge way to boost trade. So it's a government initiative and policy. We've got 8 Freeports around the country to really drive private sector investment and to boost trade and to boost innovation. And East Midlands, our airport, EMA, is at the centre of the East Midlands Freeport proposal. It's the only inland port, so based around an airport, and we are currently applying to get that designation from government, and we're hopeful that we'll hear back in the next few months or so. And it will be great because it would be good for jobs, and it would also help, as I say, boost trade with the outside world.
Matt, what are your views? I'll come to John last, because obviously, you know, from a sort of Derby City point of view, but Freeport's a concept that you appreciate and encourage.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's part of the levelling up agenda, and it's quite unique, actually. The Freeport in the East Midlands, it's something which is going to be very special. And for me, the number one driver, and I think we've spoken about this many months ago, for me, it's the job creation and the innovation, the job creation, the research and development, new technologies, all of that will be driving skilled jobs in the region as well. And I think that for me is the most important thing. There's going to be so many opportunities for highly skilled workers to come in, but also those starting out their career paths that will learn skills in an amazing, varied, and hopefully lucrative for everybody, you know, cluster of business and innovation. For me, absolutely superb for our area. It really means so much to Derby, but also the wider region. So, you know, I'm very excited about it. You know, people my age and John's age, you know, we wouldn't necessarily be you know, benefiting from it indirectly, but hopefully a stepping stone to a long career in really high tech and interesting areas of work. So for me, that's the biggest bonus, apart from the obviously massive economic potential of it.
I think I've lost you, Matt. I don't know if anybody else can hear. John.
Yeah.
I'm going. Yeah. I'll come on to you, and then Joe, I'm going to come back to you to tell me a little bit about the operation at the airport. You know, around the freight and the jobs you're looking for. But John, the significance of the Freeport.
Well, I have a very simple principle. If there's a map, I want us to be on it. And when the Freeport concept was put out there, as Joe rightly said, there was a sense that these would be ports, seaports. And I think it's fantastic that one of the serious contenders, and I'm very confident that it will get approved, is the inland port of the East Midlands. There are actually 3 sites. So there's the site at the airport. There's also a site at the power station just below the airport, for those of you who change trains at the Eastlands Parkway. It's right there. And there's a site at on the A38 just south of Derby, right next to Toyota. So our site, our Freeport has 3 different sites, possibly 3 different kind of emphases in terms of the types of companies, the types of jobs that will move there. As Matt says, the golden thread will be around innovation, and in particular around customs and import-export. And I'm very confident that the just putting our sort of parochial hat on for a second, the A38 site is very hard to beat. It's on the junction of the A38 and the A50, so it's very well placed. I think it's important that the jobs are new jobs and not displacement. And there is some evidence internationally that sometimes that can happen, so we do need to keep our eye on that. And also, I think it's important that we improve the transport infrastructure to allow people to get to these jobs, because a lot of the new jobs that have been created in large sheds up and down the M1 and around, the only way you get to them is by driving. And even the Toyota site, which isn't that far out of the city, it's quite hard to get to by public transport at the various different hours that these workers have to go there. So I think there is an issue there that we just need to try to use this, if possible, to improve some of the infrastructure around there as well. So that's my view on it. So we will be working very closely, and we've had 1 or 2 investment inquiries already in terms of, oh, you've got a Freeport, we're interested in talking. And I think that goes back to what I said at the top, Amanda. If there is a map, we want to be on it.
Mm. Yeah, it's really important and really exciting as well. And as you say, we will be unique because we're landlocked, and I think that's a really fantastic opportunity for us. But Joe, you haven't been with us before on one of these live Zooms, and if you could just tell us a little bit, because I think there's a misconception that airports are just about holidays. Which I want to come on to holidays in a minute, but what else do you do at an airport? And you I think I know you're looking for people.
That's right, Amanda. So the really interesting and important thing I think about EMA that people need to recognise is that we're the biggest dedicated air cargo airport in the country. So huge role in terms of supporting the government's export strategy, in terms of supporting regional logistics and obviously manufacturing. Now, it's also really important to recognise that passengers and freight both go hand in hand for us. So passenger income, holiday makers essentially still accounts for about 2/3 of our income and our revenue. So we really struggled during COVID because although the cargo operation was very strong and very vibrant, obviously, we need the passengers in to be viable. So which is why it's so good that we've seen the release of restrictions in the last few months, and that bodes really well in terms of the recovery as well. And you're absolutely right. We are recruiting again now, so we've been recruiting for more than 150 customer-facing roles within our security and car parks and passenger services teams, because we anticipate a busy summer season. We know there's a lot of pent-up demand. We know people want to go on holiday again. Of course, that's what they deserve. And we're hoping that we could get back to about 75–80% of 2019 volumes this summer.
It just makes me realise, even just talking to the 3 of you, Derby City is amazing. I was out litter picking on Saturday, and I was talking to somebody who has moved to Derby from I think it was Crystal Palace actually, and was saying that when they first heard about the move to Derby, because it was a role they were going to, that they were hesitant. and they came and they had a look round. And then as they looked around, they just recognised that we're not far, you know, from Derbyshire Dales, from the Peak District. And then we've got this vibrant city, haven't we, that is available for all. And Derby is just such a fantastic place to live. And we are pretty much, you know, the centre of the Midlands. But Matt, just moving on to thinking about the City of Culture, because I would love it if we were able to get the City of Culture. What does it mean, do you think? And then I'll come to you, John, if to be the City of Culture to Derby.
I would say, first and foremost, it's a huge thing to secure. Just be in the game is a big thing, and that is something that should be recognised, whether we're successful or not. Because I think it will be it's already been a significantly positive thing for Derby to be in that process and be down to the last however many it is. So regardless of whether, and I hope Derby obviously do secure it, and they deserve to, but if they don't, they should be congratulated. The council and the partner should be congratulated for the effort that they've made so far, and that will set us up again to dust ourselves down and move forward. But I think people can be. I think it's right to say that people can be sceptical towards the council sometimes, and sometimes it's justified, and sometimes it isn't justified. And I think with the City of Culture, what it shows is that if you look at all the PR that's been done, and the promotion, and the social media, and the national articles that have been written on our bid, it shows that it's a partnership. It's about those that maybe the public haven't heard from, to actually see their enthusiasm towards City of Culture, what it means to them, things that are happening in Derby that they didn't really realise or took notice of, and all those kind of things. So I think the whole process has been really eye-opening for those who maybe wouldn't necessarily see those potential things, but also what's happening now, what could happen. So when you look at what it could deliver for the city, a huge economic benefit, but more than that, would offer something really fantastic for everybody, not just in Derby, but for the region as well, to celebrate Derby and Derbyshire. And it would just be such a great sort of cultural festival that it would have massive impact for years to come. So it is something which we should be taking seriously. Thankfully, we have put in a bid which is very strong, or putting in a bid which is very strong. You know, we should be confident and proud of that, and fingers crossed that we get the right result, because Derby deserves to be put on the map as a cultural heart. And I think that if it did come to pass, then you know, it'll be a huge celebration and something to look forward to.
And John, I think we have got a lot of a cultural offer already, haven't we? I mean, maybe you could just talk us through some of the things that we have, and then what the plan would be for the future.
We have a lot of plans for future institutions to be brought along as well. But I think what people misunderstand about City of Culture is they think it's an award from the government to the most cultural city, and it's not. It's an award from the government to help the city lift itself up using culture as part of its economic and regeneration strategy. So if you look at past winners, the first major winner was actually Glasgow, way back in the 80s, which won European City of Culture. And I remember when they were declared European City of Culture, everyone just fell off their seats laughing, because Glasgow, in many respects, was the last place you'd go for culture. But what they did is they used that symbol and activity to really grow the place. And Glasgow today is a very, very different place. Our subsequent winners include Liverpool, Hull, Coventry. So in a sense, the types of places that get these monikers are generally not the glamorous cities. They're cities that kind of are going through some transition, going through some challenge, that need it. Derby's unusual in the sense that a lot of our bid is based on the fact that we have, for 300 years, been a home to innovation. And the City of Culture bid, Matt mentioned the word partnership, is a very strong partnership bid. It's a partnership of the top down, if you like, the big hitters, the datas, the theatres, the quads of the world, and then a very strong and diverse grassroots cultural community, a lot of which was probably unknown. So what are the benefits already of the bidding process? And we were very late to the bid. Derby only decided to bid about 2 weeks before the deadline. Some cities have been working on it for 2 to 3 years. So the fact we got through the first round, we're now like in a semi-final, And the decision in a couple of weeks' time will be whether we're in the final or not. And I think it would be fantastic if we could be in the final. But whether we win it or lose it, I think what we've now got is a sense of the benefit of collaboration and the importance that culture and leisure and entertainment, so it's not all just high arts, will play in the regeneration of Derby post-COVID and the repurposing of the city centre post-COVID, a challenge that all cities are going through. And I think it's been really good for the confidence of place. Just to relate it back to the football, there's a poet for Derby County called Jamie Trefuso, has this great poem, We Are Derby, and in it he describes Derby as the underdog city. And I think that's what we are. We're often an underdog city. We have to fight our corner. We have to kind of develop our sort of patch. And City of Culture is an interesting illustration of what we're doing there at the moment. And Matt rightly says, Guardian ran the Observer ran a 2-piece special on it last Sunday. It's not touched on any other places. The Independent did it this week. And what they're noticing, it's not just about the cultural community, it's about the wider community. So people like Rolls-Royce, Ulster, Toyota are right behind the bid, as well as the wider community.
Oh, it'd just be so exciting, really exciting, if we were able to achieve that. But as you say, I mean, it is a long process, and we came late to the game. But it would just be fantastic. But it won't change our views on Derby, because we think Derby's fab in any case. We don't need an award to tell.
The airport might be busy, Amanda. If when we win it, not if, when we win it.
When,
People will be flying in from all parts to come and see the City of Culture at Derby. You know, we should have that sort of ambition. And John's right as well. We are the heart of. I think it was you, Amanda, that said it. We are the heart of the engine of the UK, if you like. And what better to supplement our rich industrial manufacturing heritage than to show what kind of cultural city we can be. And it would be absolutely fantastic. It would give us a mojo, you know, it really give us a boost post-COVID, I think, to get through to that final and to win it. It'd be absolutely fantastic. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Joe, I'm just going to come to you on to just a slight change of subject, if I may. Holidays. The closest I've come to the sun is watching Benidorm, and I love Benidorm, by the way. It is my favorite series. I've watched the whole series about 5 times. I just adore it. But Joe, tips on going away? Are you gearing up to it? How's it going? And do you know, just some insight how to get a good deal as well, if you know.
Sorry, I don't know why my mute button wasn't working there. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to going on holiday as well. Looking to get across to the Canaries in March. I think most people are desperate, aren't they, for some sun and for some relaxation. I mean, the really good news is that from the 11th of February, fully vaccinated travellers who have had 2 doses and under 18s no longer need to take a lateral flow test after they arrive, and so obviously, as you know, pre-departure tests have already come out. So it's a really important moment, I think, for the travel and aviation industries as we look to recover. As I said to you before, there's a lot of pent-up demand for people to go on holiday. That was demonstrated last year before the Omicron variant, when we saw really strong recovery into the October half term. People just want the confidence and the comfort to know that they can go on holiday, that it isn't going to be a huge inconvenience, and obviously the cost of testing can be quite expensive for families as well. So I think the signs look very positive, and as I mentioned to you before, it's also good news for the economy more broadly, because we're recruiting again in anticipation of that summer traffic, and it is actually worth mentioning, because this is something I've spoken to you before about, Amanda. We have a really high concentration of aviation jobs in Derby North. So Airlines UK last summer did a big national study looking at where aviation jobs are dotted across the country. And in the East Midlands, Derby South and Derby North have the highest concentration of aviation jobs of the region. So you can see how important it is to the economy that we have a thriving sector in that respect.
And Joe, do you have any hot tips as to how to get a good deal for a holiday?
you know, I mean, well, because I work for the airport rather than the airlines,
Oh, yeah, true.
I don't, I can't sort of offer any deals as such. But you know, Ryanair have an extensive schedule coming out of the airport this summer. I just encourage you to go onto the likes of Skyscanner, etc., and look on the website and see what's available.
Oh, thanks, Joe. Matt, how excited are you? Are you going away?
Yeah, well, this year will probably be just something with the family in the UK, but we've booked Florida this time next year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so finally going to head over to Florida with my girls. I say my girls, they're not, you know, my girls are grown up now, but they wanted to go, so we're going to go with them and the boyfriends and myself and Alison. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's somewhere that I'd like to go for a long time. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. And you know, I think it's somewhere, it's a destination that hasn't been available for a long time. So yeah, but this year, you know, probably just chill out, maybe a staycation and that kind of thing. And but if we get an opportunity to go somewhere in this country, you know, where better if the weather's nice. It's beautiful. It's as good as anywhere, isn't it? Love it.
Yeah, it is. You're so right. Actually, it's such a. I went to Skegness for 2 nights, 3 days with my daughter and my granddaughter. That's the only sort of away day I had last year, and it was lovely. You know, it was really nice. The weather was nice. You've got the beach, you've got some entertainment, and of course, my father, I don't know whether you're watching, Dad, lives in Wales, and again, it's a beautiful part of the United Kingdom, and you can go there and that you get a mixture of sea and sand and you know, history as well. So weather is significant, though. What about yourself, John? How are you? Are you geared up for a holiday or?
Oh yeah, I think I agree with Matt to a certain extent. I think that the experience of COVID over 2 years has made us all recalibrate a little bit about where we go and how we go. I have a suspicion that the direction of travel will be for quality, not quantity. So funny enough, maybe traveling less often, but going either for longer or to better places. Because we have discovered parts of the UK that we didn't know exist. I've discovered parts of Derbyshire, much to my astonishment, that I didn't know exist, even parts of the city. So I don't think that's going to go away. I think for me, it's not just about holidays, it's also about business, because we've had some difficulties with inward investors who've not been able to travel, come into the country and look at the sites that they might be interested in. So the lifting of restrictions has a business benefit. A lot of the people I know work with companies based in the city who need to travel abroad, you know, to do their business, to sell their wares, to export. And I think that's very well, but that's lightening up. And as Joe kind of intimated, Derby is the home of aerospace, you know, not just Rolls-Royce. I mean, Rolls-Royce, 10,000 people in Derby work for civil aerospace department of Rolls-Royce. So, you know, and a company like Rolls-Royce has really felt the brunt of the past few years in terms of the number of jobs they've had to reduce, in numbers the funding had kind of reduced as well, a 2 billion hole, which they've kind of fixed and they're kind of moving forward. So for me, it's part of that. And I think the other thing that often gets tied up with is the zero carbon debate. I think that aviation, although it's not the largest percentage by quite a long way in terms of contribution to carbon, it has a high profile. People seem to pick on it and point at it. And I think again that the innovation that the airlines are making, the aero engines, and particularly here at Derby Rolls-Royce, are really starting to develop very, very efficient engines from using existing fuels to actually electric engines that are totally green. And we're going to see a lot of development of that over the next 10 or 20 years. So I think it's a glass half full for the aviation industry.
Oh, really interesting. Thank you, John. I've just noticed, I've never seen this before. For some reason, we're on a timer. Now, normally we can overrun, but we can't tonight because I can see it's going 2:51, 2:49. So let's just quickly whiz around. Sorry, Joe, to spring this on you, but words of wisdom. We just have a quick wind up of words of wisdom. Matt, you've done this before. Words of wisdom.
Well, just try and be positive. You know, I think hopefully we're seeing the back of the worst of COVID now. We've all started to learn to live with it. thanks to the wonderful efforts of the vaccine and all the other things that have allowed us to get life back to some kind of normality. I think now we've got other challenges. You know, we're going to be facing a bit of a squeeze, aren't we, on household finances? And, you know, it's not going to be easy. I don't think we ever thought it was going to be. So just try and stay positive, you know, try and, you know, look after your neighbours, be nice to everybody, trying to be community minded, because there probably are going to be people that are going to struggle in the coming months. And I think if we work as together, I mean, from my point of view as a ward councillor, if we can work together as communities, we can look after each other. And the summer's on its way. So what more positive can you be, you know, about that? The sun's going to shine. Hopefully we'll have a lovely summer.
Yeah, and do you know what I've noticed? A couple of weeks ago, I was taking the dogs out for a walk, and it was 4 o'clock and it was dark, and it's now like nearer 5 o'clock, which is lovely. John, words of wisdom.
Well, for me, the glass is half full. I think you all know that. That's kind of my attitude, is to try to kind of see the positive and build on that. There have been very tough times, as Matt said, and there are some tough times ahead. But one of our themes at Marketing Derby this year is believe. And I think that what we've seen with the Derby County thing that we talked about earlier, the City of Culture thing, we're about to throw a hat in the ring to become the home of Great British Railways. That competition was launched by the government last week. When you've got a place that believes in itself, where the people are passionate about it, that resonates much broader than sometimes you realise. And I deal with investors on a day-to-day basis, and yes, the numbers have got to be right. Business case has got, but they're also looking at the sense of place, and believe, I think, is my word of the day.
Brilliant. Joe, I think you've got about 10 seconds left. Words of wisdom.
I'll just finish on the note of optimism and positivity, and hoping that this is a great year, because we all deserve it.
Yeah, definitely. I think mine would be, it's probably going to cut off on my words of wisdom, but what is it? Don't try and change the things that you can't change. Try and change the things that you can. And that's the most important thing. So let's all stay positive. Let's believe. Whoa, I've got no idea. Has time finished? Do we know?
It says less than a minute, so
Less
I know you can carry on if you want.
It said less than a minute ago. So, but thank you guys. It's so great to be back. Matt, are you with me next time?